And we are live. Monday night KBF live tonight in the house, of course, with Chad Hoover. And he brought on some more folks. Chad, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. I'm missing a little bit of booty, more less than I had last week after I announced that we're moving the national championship, and I get it. I understand it. I own it. And we'll obviously talk about some stuff that's kicking off now and why we made the change this late in the game, but as early as we could. And hopefully the folks that understand, and we can accommodate everybody as best we can. But you know, I'll shut up and say, I think you should introduce the folks that are here with us and why they're on board, and we can just kind of get into it from there if that makes sense.
Yep. All right. Marty, tell us who you are, what you do, and what your position is with KBF.
I just fish, man.
Don't we all?
A lot. Marty Hughes. I live in Nebraska. I lived here a long time and started kayak fishing a long time ago. And I love it. And I love getting others into the sport and helping people and helping kids especially. And that's been my life. When in fact I substitute taught today, and that was enlightening. I know I'm not in teacher shape. That's what I'm finding out. No, I've been good friends with Chad since the beginning. When he was on his Navy ship and had the dream of starting all this, and I'm still here, man. I'm with the KBF all the way, and will be until they bury me. So I'm very thankful what you guys do for the veterans, and what you do for kayak fishing in general. It's saved a lot of lives, man, and it's going to save some more. And I just love fishing, man. I just love fishing. So, and oh, by the way, this hat I'm wearing, I want to say one thing. This hat I'm wearing is a kid who was at our expo. I call him a kid. I taught him in school. Now he has his own lure company and he kayak fishes. And there was another kid there that came up through our program that owns a kayak fishing store and was a national champion at one time in another organ. So you think about that. These guys that are coming up through and what they're doing now. And so I didn't tell them I was doing this. I just wore it because I thought, you know what? I'm going to get a shout out to LL Custom Baits right down there in Kansas. So
very nice. Now, for those of you who may be newer members to KBF, Marty, being the shy youngster that he is Kayak Jack, one of the godfathers of kayak bass fishing. And he has been doing this a long time. And that's what he was. But his position on the KBF advisory board, well, he is the director of the KBF advisory board. So for all of the members, when we talk about Marty Hughes and his legendary status that he won't, that he just likes to fish. But Marty is our advisory board director. And Hank,
Thanks.
if you know Hank, you should. If you don't, but Hank, tell us who you are, what you do, and what your role is with kayak bass fishing.
So my name is Hank Vajon. I've been a KBF member for 10 years now. I'm a lifetime member for the last 5 years. And I have been working with KBF as someone who produces content, a lot of angler-driven, tournament-driven content. It's part of a long, ongoing conversation that I've been having with Chad since I got involved, and back in the day when Chris Payne did KBF Magazine, and we all used to contribute. And because I'm just a busybody, and I was raised in a newsroom. My dad was a journalist. I was constantly harassing Chris, like, let's do more of this. How about this? Here's another article. And I was always pushing for different things. And when when KBF moved to more of a web-based format, we started doing more single articles, angler profiles. And Chad mentioned Mark earlier. I did one of him last year. The profile of Marty for the Sportsman of the Year award. Congratulations again, Marty. And doing that work and getting the word out there about what KBF does in a way that celebrates the people who do it. and that's the anglers. And I've been incredibly grateful for that opportunity for the last 5 years, because I get to hear everybody's stories. And sometimes there just isn't enough space and time to get everything into those articles. And it's amazing. Like, when I'm not fishing, that's all I hear about is fishing. And I'm so grateful for that, because it constantly reminds me of why I love to fish and why I love being a part of KBF.
That's awesome. So, for those who didn't know, Hank, if you guys follow along those wonderful tournament recaps or the write ups, the deep dive details, the look backs from tournaments in the past, that's Hank doing what Hank does. And it gets posted on the KBF blog page on the website. Those often get shared out to the KBF big group and the KBF members only. But I mean, so Hank is our KBF advisory board media and communications guru. So again, when you read the way that he captures the moment in time and puts it in the print, you just got to appreciate really somebody who does it the way he does. Marty also writes for Bassmaster magazine, so we're actually really blessed to have a couple of people joining us tonight who are really gifted in, like I said, capturing that moment in time or the spirit of what it is that we love and do out on the water, and then bringing it for you guys to read. And for those of you, if you don't know me, my name is JT Hickman. I run the Fishing with Gramps YouTube channel, as well as I'm a founding member, an OG of Freedom Squad Fishing, a group of disabled veterans, homeland heroes, patriots. And obviously, we love KBF because of its ties with heroes on the water. We as a group met Chad and Gene, a few years back, and, our connections with us all being disabled Army veterans, whereas our group is bigger than just Army, but the people and all that too. So we embrace the veterans outreach and the spirit that KBF has, taking care of our homeland heroes, veterans, and all the charity events. And then my role on the KBF advisory board is I am the director of fish ops, which is that side of KBF. And then of course we got the man, the myth, the legend, Chad Hoover.
So you guys have seen JT and I quite a bit, and so I'm not going to tell a story about JT because I've told a lot of them, but I want to start this off by telling a story about each of these knuckleheads so we can kind of set the foundation. Actually, I've got two stories about Marty. One's a statement, the other one's a story. First, Marty called me back when I was literally at Tidewater Kayak Anglers Association in Virginia. We had just started. And he sounded like that ham radio operator you see on the World War II movies where he's out in the middle of nowhere broadcasting. Is anybody out there? Is anybody out there? And then somebody goes, oh my God. Because back in the early days of kayak fishing, you found this sucker who also kayak fished. And it didn't matter if they were in Nebraska or South Dakota or California. And there was all these little pockets developing everywhere, kind of independent of each other. Yeah. And I was very blessed with having just looked out and being in every one of those places in one way, shape, form, or fashion in the Navy, and got to meet, all of these OGs. I grew up a fan of fly fishing. And so like Lefty Cray and Bob Popovics and Bob Klauser and all those guys were like legends of the sport. And as kayak fishing is starting to kind of go in that direction, it doesn't matter who your Mount Rushmore of kayak fishing are. I know them, because I was blessed with the ability to break bread with them early on. And, Marty is one of those guys. And early on, when you would get that person on the phone, like, dude, tell me what you're catching. And this guy's like, obviously, an older guy like we are. We're all team Graybeard here. But he was so damn enthusiastic about it. And he would hit me back up with a DM, bro, because we had a forum back then. Give me a call. And it's like, oh, dude, you're not going to believe this. I caught 47 fish today in like 3 hours, and I'm guiding trips. I'm like, you're guiding trips in Nebraska? Who the hell is paying to go fishing in Nebraska? But it was just this infectious thing, and we've been friends forever. So that's statement one. Here's the story. So let me tell you how the things that I'm the most proud of with KBF have nothing to do with $100,000 payouts and all this other stuff. It's the community that we've built, which is the renewed focus. But Marty and I had run into each other at several events over the years, and we're now like really good friends. He's been a de facto board chairman for 20 years because I've called him to bounce ideas off of him even before this. But I'm going to tell this story just to show how hardcore this dude is. So we're up in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and it's the Trail Series Championship maybe 5 or 6 years ago, before all the crap started with payouts and the issues, which is, if you'll notice, a certain person came in and now that person's gone and now it's going. So anyway, but Marty comes up to me. He goes, dude, and it's dark and I got a headlight on and I turn around and he's got an eye patch on made out of gauze with like tape around his head. And I'm like, Marty, what are you doing? He's like, dude, I got vertigo and I fell off the kayak, but I got a fish. So I figured out if I tape one eye off, then I don't get vertigo. So I'm like, hey, Matt, we got to follow him. So we follow him to film, and Marty's going down this shoreline. And I'm like, hey, man, are you going to circle back on any of this? He's like, no. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to fish behind you. So he'll go through and I'm going behind him and I'm catching fish. And I feel bad because I'll catch a fish and he'll spin around because he can only see out of one side. He'll spin all the way around. And he's like looking up like this. And but the dude literally drove from Nebraska to La Crosse, Wisconsin with vertigo, gets out of the truck and has got so bad a vertigo he's falling down in the parking lot, figures out that all I got to do is cover one eye and the vertigo is not as bad, tapes it up and goes fishing.
Wow.
And finished in the top 10 in that tournament. It was insane. I was just like, hey, Marty, you sure you want to go out there? So I was partially following him because he's a good friend of mine. I want to see how he did, but I was partially following him to make sure he didn't fall out the damn kayak. And we found out later that Kayak Jack is no more. So that guy is a national treasure and should be protected at all costs.
Yeah, okay.
And now my Hank story. So Hank calls me up. Hey, man, I don't want to offend you or anything, but I do some writing and I'd love to write for KBF. And at this time I'm going, well, man, I'm kind of an author. I kind of write myself. I've written for Bassmaster. I've written for like 80 magazines over the years. And like, I fashioned myself this, like, I got this, man. He's like, I know, but there's so many more stories it could tell. I don't want to come in and replace you. I'm going to compliment you. And I was like, okay. So I said, well, do you have anything you can send me? So he sends me his write-up on something. And I was like, oh, shit. How do you feel about maybe because I don't want my stuff next to that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because then I'm going to look like a total third grader. So then I'm like, dude, how long have you been writing? And he tells me the whole story that he's a PhD at Duke and all this other stuff. And then I'm like, so I gave myself a little bit of a day off. But so there's the foundational part of Hank. And since then, he's been telling the stories. He's been spinning the stories. If you've got some time, go back and read all the archive stuff. The write-ups that this dude does, it makes you feel like you know the person. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And he does it so fast and so clean, and he sees stuff that other people don't see. So we're going to take that same energy and apply it to all things. KBF members went to the Bass Nation Kayak Series in Kissimmee. Here's how they did. Kayak Bass members did this. Telling all things kayak fishing, not just KBF. Because if you're fishing for bass from a kayak, you're kayak bass fishing. So Hank calls me one day, and he's got this idea about a tournament. And Hank is also very instrumental in CKA, or Carolina Kayak Anglers, and where they've gotten to, because he's worked in numerous capacities in that organization. But he calls me up and he's like fighting for Angler of the Year a couple years ago. And he's like, dude, I got to get this one more tournament. If I do this, I'm going to win Angler of the Year, but I got to be off the water an hour early because I'm running the event. So I've got to do, he's juggling all this stuff. And then I look at the leaderboard, and the write-up the next day, and he ran the tournament, is doing all of the grunt work, and then wins Angler of the Year. So the folks that are on this board are not just people that are just in an advisory capacity that don't do it. They're out there, finger on the pulse. They've ran clubs or currently run clubs. They know what the variables are. And so when we made the post and sent the message out announcing that we're moving the national championship, none of the responses were anything unexpected. And, admittedly, I can agree with about 90%, 95% of the stuff that was said.
Yep.
But I'm going to say that I originally reached out to JT and was like, dude, all through January, I got people messaging me. If it was in the fall, I would go. Or if more people had signed up, I would sign up. So I'm like, there's 100 of you saying when somebody else signs up, I'm going to sign up. But because 100 of you saying that, nobody's signing up. And because nobody's signing up, nobody's signing up. So JT mentioned, well, if we moved it, if we had it in the fall, what you should be doing all year long is every time you get a new batch of people that are qualified, post it on the group, blah, blah, blah. And so what we're going to do moving forward is if you just finished in the top 20 of the or the top 25% of the January State Challenge or minimum 3, then you are qualified for the National Championship and the Challenge Series Championship. Go register. The way that it works is you go to kayakbassfishing.com/free entry. You register now to say that you're coming, but you don't have to pay until we get to the deadline 30 days before the event. What that does, it allows me to work on the venue, to work on decals, to work on the shirts that we used to get. And there was quite a few people that kind of bristled up when I moved it and said, oh man, I was planning on coming, but you weren't registered. I can't count on you to come if you're not registered. So I don't remember which one of you guys it was, but as we were vetting this process, somebody recommended, hey, maybe let people register, but they don't necessarily have to pay right away. So that is the new process. We're dropping the entry fee down to $200 so that the combined entry fee between the National Championship and the Challenge Series Championship is back to $350. So it'll be $200 and $150. That's going to allow us to really incentivize people to qualify for both. The first 2 days will be the Challenge Series Championship and the first 2 days of the National Championship. So the Challenge Series Championship will be over. We cut to the 100. That Friday be the 100. Saturday will be the Team Hero Cup with the 2-person knucklehead teams. And it'll be something for 4 days where every night there's something. And I'll fall on the sword one more time, and then I'm going to shut up and let you guys talk. I did not realize how important some of the trinketry stuff like these decals and these trophies are until we didn't send them out. And then people start, beating the drum and hey man, where's this at? Where's this at? And when I watched the video on the kid that was from Ohio that didn't make it into the Bass Nation Kayak Series National Championship because there was a miscommunication between the state director and all of that.
Yep.
He talked about the money for like 4 minutes. Then he talked about the prestige and the recognition and the trophy and all that for like 20 minutes.
Yep.
And admittedly, I should have known this by now, but I was like, damn, it really is. That stuff is the most important. So we got the coins out from 2023 last week, and their coins for 2024. The little bit of the blessing in disguise is they got lost in the mail twice, and then all of them ended up showing up. So I've got out all of the ones for the people that won for 2023 and 2024, but now I already have all the ones for this year in hand, and they're right here in this big old box. So we'll give them away. If I showed you the labels on this thing, it's kind of funny. It's got like 6 different sets of labels on it where it went around the world. I
was going to say, is my catch board in there too? I think that's still out in cyberspace.
But the encouraging thing is these did show up, like the lost measuring boards. So we're going to double down on recognition. So for example, we just announced the regional series, and everybody beat me up on regions. If I had known we were going to get the regions established as fast as we did, we probably would have had this conversation about the national championship quicker.
Yep.
But as we were building the regions, people were like, man, we're going to have to do the state challenges and then the regional championships, and the regional championships should lead to the national championship. But I just wish you had it in fall, because then it would all kind of end and culminate instead of you qualify, but then you got to wait back around to the next spring. And there's a log jam of complications in the spring, and then there's a log jam of benefits in the fall. But we've got the trophies in hand. So we're going to do the regional series this year, where these coins are for the state champions. But we're going to do a regional trophy for the regional champion, because we're not calling either one of them Angler of the Year this year. This year's the baseline. This year is the established to make sure there's no disproportionate regions, and we still have time to adjust. But I am going to put up a really big prize package, and I'm going to commit to it here on this live stream. Sign up for the regionals. There's no entry fee. It's free if you're an ambassador, premium, lifetime, veteran, Homeland Hero member or ambassador. And I'm going to give away at a very minimum a trophy for the biggest 5 fish in each state. I'm going to give away a regional champion trophy that is a pretty sick, sweet-ass trophy that Duke is already working on designing, and they'll get them to me way ahead of time. And then I'm also going to give away – I'm going to do what I'm calling the Rigged and Ready giveaway for the regional. So it's the KBF Regions Rigged and Ready giveaway, and I'm going to formalize it, but I'm going to tell you guys what it is here. I've got a bona fide XTR 130 that when I'm finished with, it's probably going to be like $25,000.
Gee.
So everybody that enters a 5 fish limit in the regional series is going to be entered into a chance to win my kayak. At the end of the year, I'm going to give that kayak to the person, and you can leave the national championship with it. Yep. All I'm taking off the boat is my personal lures, my track packs and my lures, and my rods and reels. Everything else, the bow mount, the torpedo, the power poles, the live scope mount, batteries, like everything I put on that boat, I'm going to give away to one person. Along the way, if you guys fire this thing up and we get 1,000 or more members, I'm going to give away one of everything that's on the boat throughout the regional series throughout the year. So you can enter your fish from any valid KBF event all the way back to January 1st. So if you already fished the state challenge, you can go enter those fish now. You can enter your fish throughout the year, and I'll draw winners on a periodic basis. We're going to do some mystery fish stuff, but at a very minimum, the prize package is you're going to win my rigged boat. And like I said, if I had to guess, it's going to be 25,000. And it's going to be pretty close to everything Gene's boat had on it for that Sea Clear power video that I did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then we're going to try to give away some prizes along the way. But again, it's a member benefit tournament so that we can set the table for next year having regions where you fish your regions, you fish your state leads to a regional leaderboard, and that leads to a state angler of the year and a regional angler of the year. And then we are really going to double down on the event portion of the national championship, Challenge Series championship, lifetime lounge. And I've got a really unique twist for this year's national championship that's going to add some fun to it after the fact that I can't announce yet.
Now, before you jump off, I do want to stick with that one thing because I have a question for you. So regional, this is for people, KBF member, ambassador. You might be fishing in catch 22. You're not like big into the tournament things, but if I'm a KBF member, ambassador level or above, I don't have to fish my state challenge if that's not my thing. But if I'm fishing in any of the states in my region, I can upload those fish to my regional board. Is that right?
Yep.
There we go. So if you're just a casual KBF member, ambassador level or above supporting the club, then you'd be crazy not to jump in this because you've got this, or if you've got the Torpedo top 10.
Yeah. Or if you just want to see, I hear people all the time, I'm going to wait until I'm better so I can stack up against the competition. Well, here's a free chance.
Yeah.
Kind of see how you stack up against the competition. You know what I mean?
This is one of your things where the membership has a benefit and you could win Chad's rigged and ready. Just throw it in your truck or on a trailer and you can go fish.
I mean honestly, if we get the right level of participation, I might even be able to twist Steve's arm into going ahead and doing another trailer to where you might just be able to hook up and take the trailer and the kayak and the whole damn thing, or I bring it to you. Yeah. So, but it's also not based on the biggest fish. I'm not drawing from the state winners or the regional champions. I'm drawing from everybody that enters a 5 fish limit meets the minimum. But every fish you enter is a different ticket that goes towards your chance to winning, just like we do with the unlimited challenge that Mr. Hughes might get banned from here pretty soon because like everybody just gives up and is like, I can't compete with that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Who's going to catch
That dude $47,000 on Cincos and Nico rigs just to win that unlimited challenge. I'm like, hey, like whatever. I did want to do one more thing before I shut up because I got this question quite a bit today.
Sure.
Ironically enough, just 3 or 4 people, haven't had anybody ask me about it in 6 months, and I had 3 people in one day. So it's kind of like a God thing before we do this live stream. So people are like, what is this? What is this?
Yep.
I'm like, that's the Fish Ops logo. What does it mean? So here's the 3. Somebody texted me. Some guy walked up to me at a gas station and saw it on the back of my truck. And then another guy just called me. Hey, man, you put your number out there. I hope I'm not bothering you. All 3 wanted to know what Fish Ops was and what the story was. So the Fish Ops logo is basically an octagon. The octagon in history is a symbol of struggle, and it's a symbol of leadership through strife and through troubled times and all that good stuff. It's actually why the founders of the UFC use the octagon as the arena, you know, the cage that they fight out of. The next thing is we wanted the star in it because we wanted it for the 5 points of the mission, and we wanted it to look like, you know, the U.S. stars and bars on the back of airplanes. But each point of the star is a different point of the mission. And so for each year, we've introduced a different part. The first part is Operation Prevent Suicide. The second star was Operation Peer Support. The third star is going to be Operation Paddle Sport Safety. And then we have Outdoor Product Solutions and one more that I'll talk about once we launch it. But we're on the cusp of Paddle Sport Safety and Product Solutions happening. But let me tell you a little bit more about the symbology here. So we have these action marks that show that the thing is rolling. So the action marks make it look like it's moving. Because if you have momentum, you don't have no momentum. And no momentum is what allows veterans and folks like myself and Homeland Heroes and pretty much anybody with mental health issues struggling to not fall into that deep, dark place. So we wanted these action marks to have symbology of momentum, meaning, you know, keep moving forward. But the subtle part that you might not be able to see, and we've got to redo it because I don't think we did it perfect, but these dots and dashes in the background, that textured feeling, that textured pattern that's repeating itself is actually the SOS Morse code over and over again, but like with the sticker over the top of it. So we're going to redo it to where we get it in there perfectly, but it means that you can offer help and you can ask for help, which is what the SOS built into the back part of the logo actually stands for. And so yesterday I ordered a bunch of decals for the Veterans and Homeland Heroes decals. And then what we've decided is we're going to do this color sticker about the size of that black part in the middle. For every time you accomplish something, you get that sticker, and you can stick it on the back of your black pack. You can stick it on the side of your measuring board. It's going to be kind of like that sticker on the football helmet for the different things that you accomplished. Yep. And so you'll get this decal, you'll get the bigger decal, and then you'll get the little decals for every catch 22 that you complete. And the idea behind it is if each one of us can reach one, it can turn into a massive movement for helping people. But it's also a conversation starter. And I can't tell you how many times the conversation has come up and it broke the ice for that person to tell me, dude, look, and then they just start telling me their story and they struggle with mental health. And so literally the damn sticker has actually saved a few lives just on accident. So if we can launch this on a massive scale to where you stick it on your boat or you stick it on the side of your measuring board and you post a picture and people are like, hey, what are all those little stickers on the side of your board? Oh, that's every time I've completed a catch 22 challenge, or that's every time I've done this. Oh, tell me more about that. And then it's a each one reach one, you know, tell us about what Fish Ops is. And so I wanted to share that because it was literally just today that I got asked about it 3 different ways, and I haven't really taken the time to explain it. And one of the guys made a really good suggestion. He's like, dude, you should probably put that logo on a web page with a narrative writing up what the logo means so that other people can share the story as well. So I'm going to commit to working on that here in the next week or so and get that page built.
Could I jump in here and share something then?
Oh, please do.
First, a correction, Chad, because if I don't say anything, you're going to get me in trouble around here. I do not teach at Duke. I teach at UNC. So you know how these Tar Heels are. It's like that's a very delicate point.
See, I just set you up.
That'd be like telling people that I was a Purdue fan. I mean, come on.
I've always made fun of him by saying he talked to Duke, and then a damn Freudian slip is that I said it live. Yeah,
Well,
sorry
actually,
about that.
I do live near Duke campus. It's
No.
right down the street.
No, I knew you worked there because you invited me to come watch LSU play against them, and I'm glad I didn't make to go watch them lose. Yeah, but I've always called you Duke, and you've always either said this dude's an idiot or just not got it. But that's been a poke. So anyway, sorry about that.
Oh Lord.
No, that's nothing because Eric Jackson still calls me Harry. So we're good.
I think I called you Harry one time too. I'm pretty
Did
sure.
you, Marty? Yeah, it's all good. You know, it's close enough.
Can you tell everybody how your last name is actually said? You said it earlier, but everybody butchers it. So let's have an official how Hank says it name.
It's Vajon, like John.
I like it.
And it's that's a Venetian name. I'm 100% Italian, but in Venice we drop the vowels. So I wanted to share something here. You were saying earlier about that person who's sitting like and thinking about participating and maybe getting in. And I was that guy. And it's actually how I met Chad. I had a buddy who had badgered me for a while to get into a kayak with him, one of his spare kayaks. And I finally, caved and said, okay, I'll try it. And as soon as I sat in that boat, I thought, well, I felt like a part of me returned to my body, like I became whole again, right? And we fished for a bit, and the next year I signed up for a local tournament, and I borrowed his measuring board. And at the tournament, I won a gift card from your old company in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
And I ordered with that gift card, I ordered my measuring board, and I ordered a copy of Corey Ruth's book about kayak fishing. And you sent me 2 measuring boards, and I called you and I was like, excuse me, Mr. Hoover, my name is Henry. I made a mistake with my order. And you said, just keep it. Jump ahead a couple years, and I had heard about this thing called the KBF National Championship. My club that I wasn't involved in as anything other than a competitor said that they were going to qualify the top 10. And I was balancing like caretaking my parents, and it was a really tough year. My dad had been diagnosed with some pretty terminal stuff. And I was going to these tournaments, and one day I broke the damn measuring board. I was launching the kayak and it snapped, and I had that spare board, and I did well in that tournament. And it was one of the key moments in getting me qualified through CKA to go to that first national championship at Kentucky Lake. And I remember thinking, what is this? Like, what's happening? I'm just going to go and wing it. And I drove to Kentucky Lake with very little idea of what I was getting into. And when I got there, I was amazed. And you were on stage and you were talking about veterans and stuff like that. And I was thinking about stuff I had seen in my family, and I was making friends and talking to people. And those relationships to this day have been a cornerstone of my life. They've got me through some of the toughest stuff. And it all started with that moment when you said, keep the extra board. Because if I didn't have that board that day when I snapped the other one, I wouldn't have made it there. So those little moments of generosity and outreach, those moments of kindness in the community, those always bring me back. And at that tournament, that was your first opportunity to butcher my name, because when I was the last guy in the money at the Open, and I went on stage, and you and Nick were up there, and you were like, man, what are we going to say? What was his name? And you said it in like 8 different ways. And I was like, wow, man, these guys are really good at mangling my last. So I walked away from that event. It was a transformative, life-changing event. I had been, if you know the Rocky movie, remember Sylvester Stallone says, I'm just a ham and egger. Like I was the guy who just donated money to tournaments for years.
Yep.
And I went out to that tournament. I worked really hard that whole week. I had my dog with me. We were like trying to figure out the fish. And when I did, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can do this too. I'm going to do more of it and have fun. And the rest was history. I spent 5 years just, driving around with Corey and all the other CKA guys all over the country fishing KBF. So I encourage anyone who's just sitting on the fence and thinking, maybe not do it, do it. Because you don't know what's going to happen, but whatever happens, it's probably going to be really, really good.
Can I tell you a crazy thing that I didn't know this story? Like, I didn't know that about the measuring board. I knew that I did it, but I'm going to tell you how crazy this is. The last year and a half to 2 years of selling the hog trough, I already knew that they were not ideal. I already knew how people could cheat. I made my rules and the hand placement and some of the things that I did to prevent people from flexing the boards, and just started looking for an alternative. By the time we had the issue with that, I already had the solution in place with Duke and we were rolling it out, and it just was a happy coincidence that it worked out. But when we sold the hog troughs, I had a deal with Hagen's, who's the company that makes it, to get like a stupid price if I bought them in bulk. And so my partner Chris and I from Hook One were the #1 hog trough dealer ever. We sold more hog troughs than Cabela's and Bass Pro Shop, which wasn't together back then, combined, and like doubled. It got to the point where Hagen's would call us and go, "What are you doing with the measuring boards? You better not be selling them below map or whatever." And we sold so many hog troughs that I realized that if we would give away a hog trough about every 200 boards, the person would get it, and then they would tell that story. Man, I got 2 hog troughs, and Chad Hoover, I called him and he said, I'll just keep it. But I did it on purpose, because the idea was not that you had a second board in case you broke yours, but if you invited that person to go fishing and they didn't have a measuring board, you could give them the measuring board. And, it was kind of a tough sell to my partner, because it wasn't in the best years. It was like the second year, third year of Hook One, and this third and fourth year were our big years. But every 200 boards, we would stick a second board in, because the idea was that person would get it. So figure the odds of you ending up on that 200th board, and I don't know you from Adam, and you get it, and it means that much to you. But it was one of those weird things that just was like a hair on the back of my neck stood up one time. I ended up coming down to like a weird number, and I was doing an order, and it was like the 200th, because they were in cases of 50. And I remember going, damn, I just did 200 hog troughs in a day. And then I went, I'm just going to give an extra one in this package. So one of the times that happened, that was your package. And
so I'm going to stick the landing for this story, Chad. When I came home from that tournament and I saw my dad, and I told him the whole story about the week, and I showed him the picture of me with the KBF check and all that, he gave me a big hug, and that was the last time he was strong enough to do that. Yeah. So that one little board 3 or 4 years later led to that really bittersweet moment with my old man. So talk about like, the universe having a way. There it is right there.
Wow.
It's because fishing is the universal language. Like, it brings us together. There's something primal about it. You know what I mean? And, I selfishly moved the national championship back apart because I wanted the biggest event in kayak fishing. I wanted to go back in that direction. And after I moved it, I was too proud to say I was wrong and move it back. But I started having apprehension about it last year. Guys like Marty can't make it. Oh, I can't travel twice. Other people that are part of the family. So we're having a family reunion and the family can't make it. And when we started having these regional discussions, I'd already had probably 70, 75 people tell me, man, I'm not going to be able to make it. If it was in the fall, I could. I'm going to make the Challenge Series Championship, though. I want to make it in the 10. And then I just kept being pig-headed. No, I wanted the national championship to be over here. And then when I struggled with all of the health issues I've had for the last 8 weeks, I kind of got behind on stuff with the pneumonia. And I was stressing about it. And I started looking at all the variables and going out and trying to get t-shirts made, and the minimum to get a decent price break is like 144. And I'm like, that's 2 shirts for everybody registered. I start looking at venues, and there's a different venue between a couple hundred people and 300 people. And then I start looking at all these things. So I started asking questions. Hey, now that the regionals are pretty coming around, I think next year we're going to move the national championship back. And it was actually JT that was the first one that was like, I don't know. Right now, you're changing a bunch of stuff and you're about to have a lot of momentum. You might be better off just ripping the Band-Aid off now, changing it now. And I'm like, oh, man, my stomach flipped. I'm like, change it 2 months out? Holy shit, I'm already persona non grata. I'm already the guy that gets crucified for everything I do. But I stopped, called Marty, called Garrett, called Lynn, called about 15 people who were the last to register. And it was
Our
just
friends in Mexico.
Just conversations. I called Jerry in Mexico because he had his championship in November. I didn't want to step on his toes. He's like, yeah, no problem, bro. We'll make it work. I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is doable. And then I sought counsel for some other people, and they're like, look, if you're making these changes and you're going to get it to where it's simplified and clean, you're better off doing it now and then have the best national championship you could ever have, and then make that a pilgrimage. Make that the thing that is your family reunion for the community every year. And then the beautiful thing about it is I can move it around. I got 2 more years locked in, this year and next, with Huntsville. But after that, we could move it around. You know what I mean? We could play that game. And, we'll probably move into the week of Veterans Day next year. This year, we're trying to do it before, because there's Veterans Day's on a Tuesday. So you get that Monday and Tuesday to go home. But from here on out, we'll put it out to the community for locking in the dates. But it's always going to be around that Veterans Day week, because that way it gives me the opportunity to not conflict with anything else. I want KBF members out there on the Bassmaster stage. I want KBF members out there, you know what I mean, fishing for the Bass Nation Kayak Series. I don't want to put anything out there where people feel obligated to go to the KBF version and miss out on an opportunity. That's not why we started all this. Yep. We started this to provide opportunities. So now I have to swallow my pride and move out of the way of the things that are prestigious and that mean something to folks in our community, and then just offer another solution that fills a gap and offers an opportunity that's different from that. You know what I mean? Which is a lower barrier to entry, opportunity to wet your feet, to fish for state challenges and Torpedo motors and trailers and my kayak and Yak Attack prize packs and Yeti coolers and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And put it all under one big event. One of my favorite comments I've ever gotten on a YouTube video is, and I'll just tell it like it is. Somebody commented dis, he put DIS, and then he put the N-word, throwing out Yetis. And so it probably wasn't even somebody part of the community, but he just came across the national championship video, and it shows me throwing Yetis into the crowd. And he's like, this N-word, throwing out Yetis. And so to me, even a passive person saw that and thought, that's pretty dang cool that,
Yep.
You can go to an event. And so Yeti's already on board for $10,000 in prizes for the championship, but now it'll be all in the one event. And then the part that is a sneaky little thing that I'll just say is, as we get closer to the end of the year, a lot of companies have leftover product and leftover budget because it's the end of the fiscal year and the beginning of the next one. I might be able to twist their arm and say, hey, y'all should come out, bring the product,
Yep.
get some more giveaways. And then if you also look at the landscape, we release products at ICAST, then we talk about them and they build up momentum. Then they start shipping in like September, October-ish, November-ish. They start showing up to dealers. All the kayak companies have a new product that they're trying to show off in the fall. So what better way to twist their arm to come down and set up and show off their new product to the kayak bass fishing national championship, Knucklehead, Team Cup, Hero Cup, and the Challenge Series Championship, and then maybe twist their arm to do some giveaways, like win it before you can buy it type stuff. So
Yep.
There's just a lot of variables that, hindsight being 2020, I probably should have never moved it back after COVID pushed it into the fall and we had a great event. So yeah, I'll fall on the sword and say that was on me.
So if I can jump in here, and of course, I'm hoping Marty is seeing that I'm raising my hand before I speak.
Good job. Good job.
That first national championship down there at Guntersville was a beautiful thing, and I might be alone in this, but I suspect I'm not. I travel for the aesthetics as well as for the results and the competition and the community. And driving down that Tennessee River Valley in the fall to get there is one of the more beautiful drives I have ever made in my life.
Yep.
I just remembered something, Marty. Last year I was getting a windshield replaced, and I came across a magazine that showed people in Nebraska like floating in these big metal barrels.
The cow tanks. They're cow tanks. They're water
cow
tanks.
Tanks.
They're cow tanks for cows to drink water out of.
And you guys repurpose those as boats?
Yeah, the people get in them and they bring their beer and they float down the river in them.
Yeah, it looks amazing. And there was this big ad for Nebraska, and I looked at that ad and I thought, yeah, I need to get out there and do that one day. That looks like fun.
Yeah, and some fish. Some of them fish.
That's what gets me out on the road these days. Like, it's the quality of the experience as much as like, whatever else is at stake. So I was personally happy to hear that the proposal came before the board to move the event back to the fall, because for me, that's a better time to be on Guntersville. I saw somebody made that comment like, hey, it's also less busy on the lake then. And that really matters to me, not just from a safety point of view, but I think from an aesthetic point of view. It's just a more pleasant experience. And that's what I had down there in 2020 when I went to that event, that first championship at Guntersville. I loved it. I can't wait to go back there. And I'm glad, because now I can. I'm going to be able to make it in the fall. And maybe, Marty, if you bring one of those cow tanks, I'll take a ride in.
They're big, man. They go on a flatbed, man.
We got them here.
Can we get those approved for fishing?
Oh yeah, they're redneck. We got them here. Trust me. There's rednecks that float the rivers in Alabama in them. So,
wow.
And you won't have to get your motor license for that one.
No. I don't know how they float with like 10 people in them.
Oh
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Chad, what's funny today? Now that one of my buddies, Sly Fox, because he couldn't go to the NC in April, but now he can in the fall. He went out, I think, yesterday and took his motor safety course so he can put his motor on his kayak and then be able to fish it for the KBF NC.
Hey, Chad, I do want to tell a story about going down to Guntersville. And a lot of people go for different reasons, but my reason was because I just wanted to see the people that I first met and continue to see me. That was like the event where I met really good friends, and you, of course, too. There was one year, I don't even know when it was, the year after our team the ragtag team had won that championship, the team championship. And I'm talking ragtag. I mean, we were just a bunch of guys got together and said, let's go see if we can do it. Anyway, that next year, that's when I got the double vision, and the doctor said I couldn't go anywhere and I couldn't drive. And so I called Richie McMichael in Kansas City and I said, Richie, I got to go. I am not missing. And he goes, if you can get to my place, I'll take you. I'll drive you the rest of the way, because I couldn't see anything. And I think it was probably stress during the COVID time with being a principal and all that. I don't know. They couldn't find out. Some people said I had a stroke, and I'm like, whatever. But, so I take off and I'm going down the road and I cannot see a thing, man. And the arrows are going like this. The lines are going like this at me. And so I did. I actually covered one eye so I could see. I drive from southeast Nebraska to Kansas City. Don't ask me how. I get near Richie's and I hear a clunk. I took out a stop sign with my trailer just before his place.
I wasn't going to say that part, but since you're sharing,
I took us anyway. I get to Richie's and he goes, so he drives me there. The first day of the championship, I literally cannot see, and I'm hitting docks. I'm hitting the docks of the lure and can't even cast. and I lost fish. I one time I scooped a big one up and it followed over the top of the net. I had no depth perception. Anyway, I didn't do very well on the first day, and then that's when I met George, the pilot guy, George. I can't remember his last name right now. And
Nemeth.
he helped me. Who?
Nemeth, George Nemeth.
Yeah, George Nemeth.
Yep.
He helped me. He helped me. He had been through it, he said. And then I was okay. Next 2 years, I fished pretty well, but I did not make the top 100 that year. And then the next year, when I was there, I was bound to turn. I'm going to make that 100. And you're reading off names, and it gets to 97. I'm like, oh, man, come on. And I got 98th. So it's kind of, it fueled me to come back, though, just for that sake. But that's the kind of guys we have. Richie drives me there, drove the whole way nonstop, and took this guy that couldn't see straight again, So yeah, it means a lot. It means a lot, though.
It's just how this community is. You know what I mean? Like, we just figure out how to take care of each other. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the guys came up to me at the Knucklehead and they were like, oh man, my truck got towed. I got this going on. I got that going on. And I'm like, no, we're going to figure it out. They were like, find somebody to replace us on the team. I'm like, nope, we're figuring it out. And I'm asking people. I had 5 volunteers. It finally came down to Austin ended up taking them back and forth because I didn't want to put the stress on another competitor to have to take care of somebody else after they had worked that hard to get there. But there was literally 5 volunteers. Yeah, I got an extra boat. He can use my rod. I'll give him 3 of my rods. It was just crazy how this community does that. Speaking of that, this little bastard, he just posted this on Facebook.
I know.
Literally been out there like all freaking month.
I gotta text him to stop
texting me videos, and I'm sitting here with pneumonia wrapped up in a blanket, and he's like, "Got another 7, got an 8, got a freaking blah." Oh man,
I'll be at work and my phone will ding, and I'm like, this little.
All good. That's good.
So that's my legacy right there. Is that started that joker off as a science fair project on how to make a fisherman. He was casting bait casters and fly rods when he was 3. And now he's 25 and he's got 22 years of kayak fishing experience, which is insanity. Yep. You know what I mean? And he's got that forward-facing sonar figured out. So a lot of people think that this forward-facing sonar is just point and cast and hook a fish. It's not. He has spent last year alone, he probably did a 75 or 80 days with it where he wasn't catching anything, but he just literally just kept grinding and working and figuring it out. And now he's out there catching these fish that are roaming. I saw a thing with Zona and Van Dam talking about it. We're learning that a lot of things we thought were truths about fish were not. Mm-hmm. And so, and then of course all the naysayers say, or maybe all the fishing pressure made them go be pelagic and live offshore. No, because they're doing it in private water. And if it was based on fishing pressure, all the fish nationwide and all the lakes wouldn't have learned the same lessons at the same time. Yep. So it's just true, real fish behavior that we're learning a lot about.
Anybody who watches Dustin Connell, Jason Wheeler, Alton Jones Jr., they're following the schools. Hamner did it last year when he won the Classic. I mean, they've changed the way the game is played.
But there's still plenty of people out there who have it that are out there in empty water scanning around.
Oh, yeah.
It's called forward-facing sonar, not fish-finding sonar. You still got to find the damn fish.
You got to find the fish first, yep.
If you point it at a spot with no fish, there's going to be no fish. So you still got to find them. You know what I mean? Yep. But I really wanted to do this opportunity for one to kind of make the folks on the board more real. And like I said, we'll get Garrett and Lynn on there. Tracy Joseph yesterday accepted a position with KBF as a community chair. She's not on Facebook. So she basically said, you'll have to keep me informed via external communication. But what I love about Tracy is she's been a judge for a long time. She's a competitor. She naturally just is like aggressive with the Challenge Series. She was doing such a good job with the Challenge Series a few years ago. I called her up and said, can I pay you to promote the Challenge Series? She's like, oh, no, I just love it. And I just love her enthusiasm. So I asked her if she'd be interested. She said, yeah, as long as you don't mind a gal that's not on Facebook being involved in the board. So she's going to be like that outside source so that when we take something to her, she hasn't gotten tainted by the conversations and all the bickering and stuff. And so she'll be a really good advocate for us as well. So, yeah.
So if you guys are interested, go find Old Lady Angler on YouTube and
yeah.
Instagram.
Instagram.
And she's just a great person.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you,
I have
too,
yet to meet her in person, and I can't wait for that day.
if you're having a shitty day, you can go to YouTube and type in Laughing Babies. And if you watch Laughing Babies and you can still have a crappy day, you're not human. But you can also type in Tracy, Joseph, Old Lady Angler, or Ola. And if you can watch her videos and not leave with a big ass smile on your face, you're also not human, and you should probably give up. Like,
she just makes you want to get in the kayak and go fish every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. She sets her drag kind of light, so she's got that when she sets the hook, and she fishes like all spinning rods for the most part. And I mean, but every fish she catches, you would think it's the first fish she's ever caught in her life, which is kind of how I am with big fish. You know, I still get jacked up like a 10-year-old on Mountain Dew, and if it stops happening, I don't want to do it. I'll do something different. You know,
there is nothing different.
No,
you know, and so I can just tell you that from a selfish standpoint, and I'm just being honest with you guys, I really needed to focus on my health, and I've neglected it. I've sitting here with pneumonia, and I've probably put on 35 pounds when I was really doing well, and my last checkup wasn't that great. So I was kind of stressed out about that part as well. And so by moving the national championship to the fall, and again, this wasn't the determining factor. I was going to gut it out the other way. But this really does free me up an opportunity to spend a lot more time with that knucklehead and the other one that doesn't fish, and do the family thing and not constantly be under the gun. And we've created some automated things like the Torquedo Top 10, where you can win 3 different shots at a $3,000 Torquedo package, a freaking $5,000 trailer. We've got the Catch 22 cranking that you can win a $5,000 trailer or, you know, a bunch of prizes every month. Got American Legacy back on board today. Got that gift card code and sent it out. We're going to start buying some American Legacy gift cards as prizes like we did last year.
Yep.
And it's all just kind of coming together. We'll set the regions up. And then this will also allow Jeff Little and I to really back up and start to focus on the rallies, because I think the rallies are the fun component of what we do as fishermen that we love about the tournaments. And there's a lot of people that don't even care about the competitive part, but the competitive thing seems to be the only reason we get together. So if we can put some rallies together where we get together just to get together and maybe have a little challenge on the side, I think that's the future of how we, you know, make the community the best that we can make it. You know, for 20 years, I've been saying, grow the sport, grow the sport, grow the sport. I honestly think I want to do a better job of taking care of the people in the sport now, and growing it. There's enough of us. Let's cap kayak fishing, and let's just do a better job for everybody that's already smart enough to be doing it, and let everybody else naysay and turn it almost into like a secret. Like, hey, you know, don't tell anybody else about this shit. There's too many people in my 10-pound bass spots now, you know, and just make it as best we can for the people that are in it, you know.
But like I told you too, one of the things that this really, really allows you to do, and you've already shown this, is you're building a better bass club, because that's what kayak bass fishing is a big bass club that's nationwide and growing. And the fact that you're not stressing, or won't be, about having to deal with April and then the fall, you've got all year to build it, brand it, make it bigger, make it better, and do it right. And get yourself right as well.
What I like is that you're not saying, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's like there's something for everybody. If you want to stay in your backyard and catch fish on the local public pond there, that's okay. Or if you want to travel and meet somebody in another state and fish a little bit, that's okay. If you want to go to the national championship, great. But you don't have to. And no one's making, and I've been watching the deal. I've been watching since day one, Chad, for this year, watching everything grow, you know, and in a way, in different ways. And if you want to go catch your state record fish, be in the top, you know, just seeing your name up there is pretty cool. And then
Yeah.
pretty soon we get these stickers out there, man. I want to put a bunch of stickers on my board. You know?
Yeah.
Like a little kindergartner getting my stickers, you know?
Oh yeah. Just
Yeah.
we're some sticker fiends.
We are. I mean, I got hundreds around here. And what I like doing though is I like going to our events here, and I like giving the kids stickers here, you know,
Yep.
for different things. They don't care what they say, and I just like getting them. But man, that when I like to get one of those KBF, you know, like the 100 stickers or whatever, you know, something like that. And also, Chad, think about like numbers of fish too.
Yeah.
What
We already had like the circle ones that we've done for the
Yeah.
for the size.
Yeah.
We're doing a diamond for like 1K, 2K, 5K, 10K. Because there's people that have got 30,000 fish they've caught on between a combination of Tourney X and Fishing Chaos.
Yeah.
So you know, that needs to be recognized. That's pretty impressive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's only 15 years for Marty because he's putting up over 2,000 fish every year.
Yeah, but it started out as a goal, though. I mean, with my kids, that's the thing. I didn't do it for me. It was to show my kids, you know, because ours was the outrageous goal where my son, one wanted to run and one wanted to shoot baskets. And they said, "What are you going to do, Dad?" I said, "Well, I'm going to catch the year and fish." And I failed miserably, and they made it, you know. And I just said, "You know what? I'm going to get this so they can see that I'm in it with them too." And it just made us all push each other, you know. And that's all it was for. And then it became just like a habit. And so now I just love going out and getting the tug, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all a bunch of addicts trying to coexist. And I think that sometimes people forget that I don't just do this at KBF. Like, I do this, you know. People send me messages. I don't think you understand. I'm like, dude, I do it. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? I do this. And I seek counsel from others that do it. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm pulling this stuff out of my rear. So it's been a rough ride for about 3 years. I'll be honest with you, you know, but everything last year was win after win after win after win. And then, you know, having the stuff happen with the knucklehead thing where I didn't have the money to cover the payouts because I was waiting was just another like serving of humble pie from, you know, the man upstairs going, don't get too far ahead of yourself and go back to where you were. Because the community part has to be the first part.
Yep. And,
you know, I tried for too long to do too much. And then the one time or two times or whatever you fall short, that's the thing. But I'm a big fan of the military philosophy of one-off shit or races 1,000 attaboys. You know what I mean? But, you know, you go 3 years where you're paying $6,000, $7,000 an event bonus money out, then you get accustomed to pulling it off. And then when all the stuff doesn't come together at the end, you know, it's a lot like the midair with the helicopter and the airplane. You can do it right 1,000,000 times where you just almost make it happen. And then all the things line up in the wrong place at the wrong time. And you end up with that inability to, you know, make the correction in time, and you have a midair. So that's what happened to me. Is that, you know, Amazon struck, so vendors didn't get paid. Vendors didn't get paid, so they couldn't pay me. And then it was just a myriad of, but I was over promising stuff that we didn't need to promise. Like there was already plenty, you know what I mean? And so I've got to focus on that, the experience. And you guys are all been amazing and helping keep me grounded. You know, I called JT and was like,
you heard about all that because it was like, okay, here we go. You know, we said we were going to have a board. Let's get the board. Let's, you know, and make those changes, made those changes, got the people added. And, you know, like we said, even, you know, we can't leave you to do everything because you put it all on yourself when you know we're all here to help. And so that's why we are all collectively working with you so that you can focus on the big picture, but then bring it to you know, and ask and seek advice, you know, and that's what we're here for. And so we just keep on winning and winning and winning. And that's what we're going to do.
And, you know, I'm going to tell you something that sounds crazy. As I was going down this entrepreneurial journey, I went to one of these clinics, like where some famous entrepreneur like rents the hotel and you go to this seminar. It was Damon John from Shark Tank. So I go listen to this thing, and one of the things he says is like, when you're running a successful business, you should only do what only you can do. Let other people do all the things that you can't do. And that really sounds good in theory, but I'm going to be honest with you, man. When I sit down with that 2 cases of trophies and I sit there and I hand wrote out the person's name on every one of these little folders, and I got to stick their card in there, and like I got to mess up a name and then redo it. I got to reconnect with knowing the names of the people. I got to put my finger back on the pulse of the brand.
Yep.
When people used to call Hook One and they would see me on TV, but then I would answer the phone, they'd be like, "Oh, I didn't think you were going to answer the phone." And to this day, people still are like, "Hey, I just called the KBF number. I didn't know I was going to get you." I'm like, "Well, that's my number." They're like, "Oh, wow." You know what I mean? But I am going to disagree with the Damon Johns of the world because, one, I'm not trying to be a billionaire, but what I get out of this is the community feel, the connection with the people, seeing where the names are popping up from. And I prided myself on when somebody would walk up to me at one of the national championships and say, "Hey, I ordered something from you." And I'm like, "Oh, what was your name?" And they told me, I'm like, "Oh, you live in Nebraska." They're like, "How'd you know that?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, because I'm the one that damn put that shit in the package." Up to that point when Hank got his board, it was either me or Austin that touched every hog trough that went out of that building for the first 2.5 years. There was nobody else. It was me or that knucklehead in the middle of the night. And as bad as it sounds like I got too good for all that, I did. I got too big. Like Christy wanted to make this thing this other thing. And I was apprehensively going, okay. But then it feeds into your ego and you're like, oh, maybe. And then we did FLW. And then I was like, no, I don't want to do this shit. Like, this is not me. Well, but I'd created so much momentum in that direction that it was like trying to turn a barge that's like run out of power. And it took a while. And then when you're struggling mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, relationship wise, and then throw financial on top of it. What I learned about myself over the last 3 years is that, and I'm going to say, pardon my French when I say this, but it's the only way to say it correctly, is I feel like I'm one of the toughest and most resilient motherfuckers anybody knows. But I also know that I ain't as tough as I thought I was, and that having dudes like y'all and, the matriarchal people like, like Tracy to reach out to and Lynn to reach out to, and to have these people that are part of the family that I can seek counsel from is the new superpower. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I ain't 20 or 30 or even 40 anymore. I turned 50 in October, and doing the stuff I used to do ain't sustainable. It ain't healthy, and I shouldn't have been doing it. But what I do love is I do love the connection. Like I was off of the members only page for 3.5 years, and JT sends me a screenshot and goes, "Hey, you should probably go respond to this post." And I couldn't find it. And then I don't know if you guys know this, forums, you got to go to your business suite under Meta to manage everything. So I type in KBF members only group and it comes up, and I click on it and it said, "You muted this page on January 14th, 2021. And I was like, "Would you like to unmute now?" And I clicked unmute, and I went in there and was like, "Oh my God, I've not been on the members only page of the company I own for almost 3 full years, or, it was a couple months shy of 3 full years."
I thought I was doing a lot of work in there, but didn't realize that there was only a couple of us.
And I just lurk in the big group, and I comment when I can. And I've really gotten invigorated by going to the Kayak Fishing for Beginners group and the Kayak Fishing DIY group. Both of those groups are great. So if you're not in one of those, you should definitely go check them out. But I had this unrealistic approach about KBF of making it the biggest club in the game, the biggest brand in the game, all that other stuff. And I just don't give a shit about that anymore. I actually wanted it to be the best. And that's the part that I care about. And to make it the best, for the next 2 to 5 years, we have to make very smart, strategic decisions to invest and reinvest in the sport. And, JT has tried to get me to tell this story publicly. Is this only in the members only group, or is this like live to the whole world?
No, this is on my channel. StreamYard and Facebook itself is a pain in the butt.
Okay, so I'll say this, regardless of where it's going to. A few years ago, I had a sponsorship opportunity that was $1 million commitment. Well, $1 million with an M. And they had this due diligence process that they do. And we got down to the signing thing. I had already made a Facebook post that said, huge announcement coming soon. And I don't know if people remember it, but I had posted this globe. It was the world, and it had the KBF logo in front of it, wrapped around it, bent, and Joe did it. It was this, that rustic. It's actually this same branding that you've got around the page now. It was back when that was our brand.
Yep.
And 3 days before we're going to make the announcement, I get a call from the guy that was the advocate for this brand, and said, "Hey, Chad, I got some bad news, man. Our independent review of kayak fishing deemed that the community's toxic. So therefore we don't want to invest in it." And I was like, "What do you mean toxic? These guys will give each other the shirt off their back. They'll, whatever." But what they saw was the pages where it's really fun to shit on everything, especially KBF on, and then they looked at that and they said, well, there's this big group that's pretty reasonable. Then there's this other group, but it has hate with this group, and there's all this friction. And so therefore we can't invest in this space right now, but we sure as hell can't invest $1 million in it, right. And it was right after we had come off of the FLW win, and I was going to transition to, I'm not doing FLW again, but I'm going to do our own thing, but we're going to have $100,000 guarantee for 3 different events. So it's $300,000 a year plus $35,000 operational for $1 million commitment over 3 years and it was an insurance company. I'm not going to call out the actual name because I don't want to make them, it wasn't their fault.
No.
But we lost a huge opportunity. So those opportunities are going to come back. And I really think that Bass has the best shot at pulling that off because they're in that space already.
Yep.
They've got a massive following. They're in the, and so with us backing away from that to let that national championship be as big as it can possibly be, they could potentially pull a non-endemic like that can make it to where now there's a chance to win $250,000 at a kayak bass fishing national championship. And what I'm going to do is focus on making my favorite event the best event that it can be, which is the national championship, Trail Series or Challenge Series championship combined for the 10. The 10 is my favorite event. You can hate me for it. You can say whatever, but there's just something about these people that have run this long gauntlet. It's even harder now. It used to be you had to go fish these trail events and get your points and then go fish another event and get your points. Now you got to be on the hook like 24/7, literally for a month. You got to beat out people for a month 3 times to get the points to go position yourself to then fish against those same people to come out in the top 10 and then have the opportunity to go fish against them same hammers again for some pretty substantial payouts. So that's the gauntlet. That's the toughest gauntlet in the game. That's why we did that pyramid where everything goes to the top and that 10 is like the crown jewel up there. It's the angler of the year on steroids because it's not only the angler of the year, but it's everybody that has that, oh man, I just missed it by, 3 times we figured out that one fish was the difference between first and like 7th. One fish throughout the course of the year. And I can't tell you how many times one fish has been the difference between 10th and 11th. Like Casey Reed wears a logo on his jersey with the number 11 in it because of like 3 times that he was like right there on that bubble. So it is the toughest gauntlet to run. And then we've got a whole nother twist we're going to add to it this year that I can't wait to share with you guys. And we've got a chance for the fans to get involved in the 10, and they can also win some money. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be real cool.
Chad, I got a couple things.
Shoot.
Well, maybe one thing, I don't know. But so I knew a coach once named Don Meyer. He was at Northern State University, and he had a chance to go to a Division I school. It actually made his school, Lipscomb University, Division I school. And it changed the dynamics of everything he believed and what he did. So he went to Northern State. Anyway, I was at a clinic, and I know him very well. He's a good friend. And he says, make it the big time where you're at. UNC's got a big program, right, Hank? I mean, huge. But you can still make it the big time where you're at. My point is this. Omaha, Nebraska, it's an hour north of me, has a gigantic expo. Lincoln, Nebraska has a gigantic expo. There are no other expos. Maybe Kearney, Granite has smaller ones. We're in a town of 3,400, and we had an expo last weekend. We made it the big time where we were at, had all kinds of activities going on. People loved it. Did I compare myself to these other? No, we just did what we did and had a great time. And it was personable. It was a community. It was guys that knew each other. That people hung out the entire day. And you know how much it cost to get in? $2. And it goes towards our program. And $1 for kids. And then there was all these free activity stuff given away. Great stories came from it. You make it the big time where you're at, and not comparing to anything else in that realm. And I think that's how we started. Is just made it that way when we started. And that's what I believe. And because I saw this thing grow from the little silos that we talked about, and we all made it that way. When we had a Kayakapalooza in the early days and 50 people showed up, and we'd have 20 gals there, and stuff. Yeah. And we didn't even have any money. We gave the money to Heroes in the Water. And then I gave away an 8-foot plastic kayak for the champion, or 10-foot, whatever. But you make, and we built that camaraderie. And I think sometimes we get away from that in some of these events, but it's not about entering all these little, it's about getting together with that. And we can compare our results and stuff, but make it fun where you're at. And you guys that are out there, get your guys together, and then, hey, let's go together. Let's go there. Because I remember the time we had 800 plus guys there, and I met so many people that I never, that I saw on Facebook, but I'd never met them in person. But that was kind of the cool thing there. So does that make sense?
751.
7.
Oh, pretty close.
No, yeah. He was close.
Somebody shared a story with me last week that really kind of grounded me in this whole thing. Guy called me, said, "Hey man, I just wanted to share this story with you. Like, we started fishing the Catch-22 last year, mostly because I'm a veteran. My son didn't serve, but fishing kind of is our thing that we still do to stay connected." And he said, "Man, we signed up for the Catch-22, and by halfway through the year, it didn't have a damn thing to do with how we were doing against the other 22 people in our state. It was just me against him. I'd be sitting at home eating dinner, and he'd post a fish, and it'd pop up, and I'd be like, 'Oh, you son of a bitch.' Or he'd send a screenshot to me that he just passed me. He goes, he's like, 'I canceled 3 golf trips with old buddies this year because I was going golfing, but like he passed me by an inch and a quarter.' And I'm like, F that. I'm going fishing tomorrow." So it was not something that we thought about. Yeah. But it's crazy that the little tournament within the tournament thing is going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually had a guy ask me the other day, "Hey, could you make a two-person leaderboard?" I said, "Yeah. What do you have in mind?" He goes, "Well, I just want to do me and my son versus each other so we can share it with our family." Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, so I'll make whenever you guys get ready to fish, they're up north, so they're frozen in for another month or so. So whenever y'all get ready to fish, I'll just make a 1v1 board. We'll put it down at the bottom. You guys will know what's there, but everybody that inadvertently comes across it's like, what the hell is that? It's just 2 dudes.
I need a Freedom Squad board.
Yeah, exactly. All that stuff we can do. Yeah. That's fun. And, I got reached out to by an AI measuring app today. Yeah. I'm working with one that brought the orange balls to the tournament to make the reliability better, the self-judging better. Fishing Chaos came into the game. Fishing Chaos made Tourney X better. Tourney X guys made Fishing Chaos better. And we now have all these opportunities at Anglers where it truly is a scenario now with KBF where every fish counts. Like legitimately,
Yeah.
We gave away a kayak last year for a 9.25. Actually, your kayak that you won, Marty, was like a 14.25.
Yeah.
So we did have a couple kayaks that were won by like 20+ inch fish that were big fish, but the vast majority of the good prize wins have been the fish that you can catch anywhere in the country.
Yep.
A guy named Daniel Perry won one. Actually, Daniel Perry donated the boat back that you ended up winning. So he wanted it and was like, look, man, I'm blessed. I've been having a good time with this.
Oh, that's our dude here in Indiana. Yeah,
the Indiana guy. He goes, plus, I'd be the third Indiana guy that won a damn kayak in a row.
Yeah.
Let me just donate it back. And so we set up the next unlimited challenge. And then you were one of the two that were won was because that person donated it back. And so it's just a cool deal.
And our kayaks go to these kids that use them. You got to see it, man. I get dibs on that one. I got dibs. And so we bring them out there and they get to use all these great kayaks. And what does that do? That makes them like even better,
Mm-hmm.
And we even give them the catch boards we have about 30 something catch boards and they take those out and take their pictures. It's a blast, but they love those kayaks. We have all different kinds here.
Cool.
Well, all right, gentlemen, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. And we'll keep giving updates throughout KBF as there are updates to go. We'll post it out in the KBF members only group. If you're a KBF free member, we'd invite you to join, at least be a KBF ambassador member so you can participate in all these free activities as part of being a member. Chance to win great prizes, a trailer, the rigged and ready. I mean, there's all kinds of good going on out there.
3 Torpedoes, a bunch of Yak Attack.
Yep.
Waiting on hearing back from 3 other companies. I put out 2 different updated discount codes today. We're up to a little bit over $400 in value for a $25 membership.
Yep.
It's pretty much, in my opinion, and I'm biased, it's the best deal in fishing. You know what I mean? Like it really is. You get your money back. I mean, if you join today for $25, you get $25 to go to American Legacy Fishing and go get tackle.
Yeah, and you can't
get all the
beat
other
that.
benefits,
And as Chad always says, we as members, and this is how we promote the sport that we all love, each one reach one, because then you get that person in, they'll get somebody in. This is how we share this and grow this, make it nationwide. Then when these regional things kick off and we start, Chad and Austin start jumping in the truck and trailer and traveling around the country, and we start doing meetups down the road, it'll be a good time. But gentlemen, thank you all for joining tonight. Everybody out there watching, thank you for all your support. And we're going to keep doing everything we can to make kayak bass fishing the best bass club there is.
Can I make one quick more announcement before we go?
You go right ahead.
So in the vein of the story that Hank told, and I promise you, we did not rehearse this the night before. I didn't even know that story. One of the things that I'm going to start doing in the decal package is there'll be a DU that stands for double up, and you'll see my little scribble signature there. So if you get that decal in your package, that means you probably got double the decals that you earned. So you don't have to call me and say, hey man, I got more than I should have gotten. What I'm doing is I'm doubling up your decal order because I'm challenging you to go find somebody to encourage them to join. And then once they meet the criteria, you can just hand them their decals. So it's kind of a play on the each one reach one thing. It's the exact same philosophy that I did with the hog troughs, where if I send a free one out to every 200 people, it's a planting a seed. And so when you see that in there, and then if you happen to get a gold decal, that's the KBF membership decal that looks like the lifetime membership, and you're not a lifetime member mixed in with your regular membership, that's not an accident. That just means you need to post it on the members only group, and it's kind of like the Willy Wonka.
The golden ticket.
So a lot of fun stuff coming. I can't thank you guys here on this live stream enough for your support, and I definitely can't thank all the knuckleheads out there for their support and giving me this like amazing life and opportunity to stub my toe and still not fall up and so hard that I break my neck and still be in this game. So I appreciate y'all.
All right.
Appreciate you.
All right, we're going to get out of here. As always, get outside when you can and make some memories. One cast at a time.